Hey, welcome to the Hyper live stream. um, Today, I want to continue from where we were in the last live stream, where we were building the Hyper.io website. We've got a great design, and now we're going through the process of taking that design and converting it into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And Friday, a few days ago, we worked on the style guide and also worked some this weekend on it. And go ahead and show you what that looks like, so you can get an idea of where we're at. So if we click on the style guide, you can see all the pieces that we worked on Friday, where we have header 1, header 2, header 3, 4, and 5. We added the color palette here. And we also added some buttons, did some more work on the buttons, but we've got regular buttons, link buttons, which would be like an anchor tag. Use link button, give it href and a background color, and got that. And then we've got the play buttons, which we got a little hover action going on, which is kind of nice. Um, and then nav buttons and text buttons. So these text buttons just don't have any kind of styling but the text itself. Um, Went ahead and implemented this little color array thing like in Figma. And let me go ahead and pull up Figma, pull up the design. Okay. Um, so while that's coming up, we basically just implemented these button colors here to kind of show them in the style guide. Um, let's see. There we go. Like this down here. And then we implemented the pagination kind of bullet thing, and you got all the colors. But you can basically give it a um, number, and it will um, paint those buttons. Is what they are buttons. So if I can pull up the component, there we go. So we can give it a number of pages, and then it will paint those buttons. So the default is 3. And then we can also give it the color, and that will be whatever the active page is in the color. And it'll actually dispatch a click event with the index of the active one. So if I click here, that would be index 2. That would come in, and then you would be able to change um, the page, if you will, um, from that. So that was pretty cool. Um, and then worked on the FAQ toggle down here. So if we look at the FAQ component, you can provide it a slot question and a slot answer, just using span tags because there's really no markup there. And then this component will allow you to toggle and see the answer and hide the answer, which is pretty cool. Um, then we did the search component, just an input box with the kind of search button inside. And when it's active, we highlight the border and change the color of the button, and when it's not. So that's kind of cool. Um, and then input, basic text input. And finally, the select. So we can do a select drop down, and it has a little cancel button in there, just kind of nice. Um, the other thing is that drop down. The reason that's popping to the top is there's no room at the bottom. If there's room at the bottom, it would pop at the bottom, and that's a component that's called Svelte Select that we pulled in. Now, through this process, I noticed two kind of things to take note that I ran into. The first one is with Tailwind. So with Tailwind, there's a purge feature, and when I was building these buttons, um, they would work in development mode, but then when I shipped them and kind of shipped them to the internet, if you will, this dev website, when I shipped the buttons, they would not show the colors. So I gave it a background color of whatever and a text color of whatever, it just wouldn't show. Um, and what that has to do with is the fact that in the button component, we're using Tailwind and we're dynamically specifying the color in there. And because when Tailwind purges the CSS to go to production to keep it as small as possible, it looks at all the components that you have in the class, and if it can't find a color of that name or any component, it will not include that. It'll only include what you use. And so these are dynamic. It doesn't know that we're dynamically using those colors. So the workaround I chose to get around that, and there may be a better way, but the kind of the workaround that I chose was in this index svelte file, and I think it could be any file. I created this footer, and in the footer, I kind of added a directive if show, and that's false. And then I created all of these paragraphs where I'm actually using the colors. Um, and what that did was that when it went to purge, it said, oh, you're using text light green, and you're using background green, and you're using hover background light green, etc. And so it kept that CSS defined and left that in the distribution, and everything works. So every now and then I have to remember to use dynamic components. If it's not in there, it's not going to keep it in the customized bits of Tailwind. So with that, I've just got this footer, and I'm just adding things to this footer, and it's not visible. So if we go back, to this page, you can see there's no visible footer. But and if I inspect it, I don't even know if it would be visible there. I think it's just during the build time, to be honest with you, but it may be. Um, there's the footer. Yeah, it's not even visible there. Um, so that was one got you. And then the other got you was really kind of strange. So I told you that we had this select down here, and we're using that, just super cool. But one of the things about that um, was when and using Sapper, when you installed components, and maybe I'm wrong about it, but when you would install Svelte components, you would install them as dev dependencies. So I installed this Svelte select as a dev dependency. And what happened when I did that is that it immediately, it worked. It worked until I uh, refreshed the page. And then when I refreshed the page, that's when SSR kicked in. So when I did this, it worked because it rendered it dynamically on the page. But then when I refreshed, and I don't know if it'll do it now, but I got this error that said that it can't, and it's not. Of course, it's not doing it now. Um, but I got this error saying that that you're trying to use a component that's not SSR um, capable or whatever. And one of the things that when you're building a Svelte component is in the package JSON, you create a Svelte property. And that property points to the source directory in your, kind of your component. Um, and So I checked that and that looked good. And it looked like it has been known to work on a Sapper site. So that was just a little confusing. Um, where to install what, whether it's a dev dependency or a regular dependency. Um, and that was just kind of strange. I was glad to get it working because building your own kind of select component is kind of tough. Um, so I was glad not to have to do that. Had that. So those are the two notes. Like I said, let's see what. Just trying to break it here, and I don't know if I succeeded. Yeah, here we go. So that's what I got is that you know select is not a valid SSR component. You may need to review your build config and the workaround. And again, it may not be a bug; it may just be me not knowing the right use case for this. But once I moved it into dependencies, we're good. So I moved it into dependencies and then refreshed the page, and um, I may have to restart the app. Let's make sure we save package JSON file. Hopefully we can get this running back again. Um, well, yeah, create a good file. Won't like that. It's not perfect JSON. Okay, now we should be happy. Okay, maybe not. Let's see. Uh, Got the curly braces. Okay, I think we are good. Now, hopefully, we got rid of that error. But other than that, it's been pretty straightforward. I was able to move pretty good. I'm sure I've got a little bit of work to do with with the actual components themselves. I really just focused on the aesthetics of the components versus the functionality. We'll capture the functionality when we get to that part. But and then the last piece I haven't got to in the style guide, while that kind of reloads, is the checkbox um, right here. But I think I'm gonna hit that component as I get to it. Other than that, I think I've got most of the style guide completed um, and ready to go. And actually, I'm just kind of excited to get to the final design and start to work on that a little bit. Um, cool. So, if you have any questions about that, just let me know. But the two gotchas is the Tailwind Purge. When you anytime you touch the Tailwind config and add or extend things, then it's going to, need to have those in your code in order to keep them, right? So that's one. And then the second one is, using third-party components when you install them in the dependencies and not the dev dependencies. And see, we're back in business, I think. Still loading a little bit. Um, cool. So we've got that. I think the next step is we'll probably want to tackle this navigation view. And probably what I'm going to do is, um, let's see. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is create a navigation page and just do the navigation bits and then possibly abstract that out into its own component. Um, and we want to handle the mobile nav as well. I'm trying to think. So the way that they've got these is separate components, separate pages. So there's product, FAQ, about, company would be like about, I think, about us, FAQ, and like getting started. Yeah. And contact us in terms and conditions. That'll be a fun one. Okay. So yeah, let's see if we can't first start with this navigation bit. And we'll just create a new page, routes, and we'll just call it nav.svelte. And we'll just go ahead and start with, it's a header, so we'll make it a header. And then we're going to want probably like two divs, one or two sections. Maybe we'll use section. That's kind of the logo section, and then the nav section, we'll call that nav and header. And we'll want to add our logo here. And then we'll want our name. And then here we'll add product, Q, company, blog, get started, and API docs button. And the image, we can just use SVG. So we can grab that. And I think I already have it as SVG. Let me check. Okay. So let's just do that. Let's in static, let's just do logo dot SVG. And then we'll copy this guy as SVG and paste there. And then in nav, it's an image source logo.svg alt hyper logo that and main. Let's see what the size of this is. $700 is the weight. Okay, so let's look at our style guide. It would be an H2, 600, size 48 pixels. H3 is 32, so the size is kind of in between those two. And the weight is a little different. So it's probably a custom H1, right? Or H3 to hyper. Okay. And what we want to do is we definitely want everything on one line on the header, right? So we'll do class equals flex. And then in this particular section, we want everything on one row. And then want item center. Like that. And maybe a little spacing here. And then go ahead and give some margin. And let's try 8. And let's see how that looks here. So wonder if I can't, yeah, get that. And see, top is 72 pixels and left is 180 pixels. And let's see what this is actually. So margin 8 is what? Like 32 pixels. So we want to do more than that. Let's do margin 10. That leads us down. Let's go to Tailwind's documentation and let's look at what will get us 72 and 180. So we want to do margin. Hmm. So 8 is 2, and that was 40. The base is um maybe 20. So let's try margin 16. $64. Lost it. Yeah, there's no margin 17. Let's try 20. 20 is add. Okay. So margin top is 80. And then we wanted to go 180 from the left. So let's try try 44 maybe. Or so let's do margin top 20 and margin left 40. Okay. 160 on the left and 80 on the top. I think that's pretty close. We can dial in if we need to. It's 180, and we're 160. Try 44. Okay. 176. We'll stick with that for right now. So that kind of gives us the Figma margins and stuff. Let's see. So what we want to do is do a flex of these two, and we want this one to be 100%, and then the nav be whatever width it's going to be, and that will push them um, out. So we'll just make this width full down here. We want to use our link. Well, we just want to use normal hyperlinks, I think. So this would be a href and product. Product. And we're going to want to transform that to uppercase. Transform. So we'll just say uppercase. It's kind of cool. And we want to use font space, I think. Let's see how that looks. And we may want the size to be a little bit different. Let's just do looks closer to it. And we want to make the nav flex, right? And we want to say items center. Here we want to do justify between. Or items between. Can't remember. So item stretch. So I think we have to change things around. Flex column. items. Start, stretch, center. Space between. Figure that out. Let's go to our style guide and see if that helps. Okay, so when we did this little color thing, I passed it. Okay, here we go. We have gray and light gray, and we just said justify between. So colors flex, justify between. It was. I think. There we go. So now we've got product. And we want to do margin right 44. Okay, so go product, company, blog, FAQ, else. Product FAQ, company blog, get started. So we got so FAQ, company. This would be blog.hyper.com for now. And then, so product FAQ, company, blog, and then get started. My docs. Docs.hyper.com. Blog. Company. Q. Yeah. Let's see. Um, okay, so let's oh, we got them all. Cool. Now we want to do space in between those, and maybe we can do our space dash one X. Maybe. Oops. It's not really doing anything. What was it? Space X. Space X4. Ah, looks pretty cool. And let's change that to our button link. Forgot what button it is. Yeah, button, right? Okay. On this nav button, I think it'll look like we want it to look. Or nav button from live nav button. Spell. Um, so we got it looking and it does an on click. So we'll do on click. And go to let me say ACPS docs.hyper63.com. And to get the go to, we need to pull that from app, $sign app, navigation. See how that works. Sweet. Let's see the font though. I think the font might be mono. No, space 600. Space 700. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to leave that in. It's not really a component. It's more like a sub-page piece, which is a component. But I'm just going to leave that in the routes directory. I guess I shouldn't, because then it's going to be a page. Yeah, probably should move it to the lib directory. Okay, and then we will do. See, I want to move source routes index.svelte to, well, no, we'll just open that. Uh, It'll be the easiest. So we want to import really not nav, it's more like header, right? So we want to move source lib nav spelt to source lib header spelt, right? Then in index file, we want to import header from lib header.svelte. That and that. And slash nav. Okay. And then with main, we don't need that big of a margin. You need some. Guess that looks right. Kind of looks like it's a little bit too long over here than over here, but I guess that's right. Um, and like here, is that 72? 72, 180. Okay. And I know we're 80. And this looks wild. Okay, so we know that's heading 1. So let's go ahead and do that. And see how to grab that image owner. Grab all that by SVG. Let's do static. Page splash.svg. Let's just pop that on our routes index.svelte. Page splash.svg. Okay. And then let's look at this copy. Build web. Build your web applications at hyper speed. Yeah. And I can't read that. Your development team focus. Creating applications that solve the problems business. Hyper solve problems of the cloud. Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's start to work on that. Okay, so we want to pop this over to the left here and wonder if we could try doing a background image, maybe. Try that and then putting the text over it and fixing the width. Let's see. First, just comment out this guy. And then we want margin left to equal 44. We probably want this in a div. And make the width of this to be 1/2. And height full. So we don't need all of this. Yet. Let's see how I can stretch that div down to be half the page. Doesn't seem. Like me. That looks like the wrong. That's the wrong one. Here. Okay. And we could do position not absolute, but I just don't like doing that. The size is 76 pixels. What do we have? Yeah, 76. Hmm. Okay, so let's try width. Width 50%. Width dash 1/2. Okay, that's nice. And this one's a little different. maybe 1/3. That. Then it'll be 2/3. That. Hmm. Let's see. Width 4. Go. Let's see. Maybe 3/4. Yep. Okay. Now let's throw the graphic in behind the scenes and see how we do there. Let's see. So we've got it there. Let's make sure. 100. Okay. So let's look at float. Old school float. Background images. That's not. So if I did a background image, I would want to do that on main, I think. Be like main, like found image, URL, and it would be home page, splash, SVG. And we would make the height it's pretty close. It kind of stretches past there, so there is there. That's this container. Not quite right. We'll see what I can do with the image. Background position. Background right, maybe. to repeat. Yes, this is. Well, that's kind of too far to the right. Hmm. Know about that. Let me see about image. Hmm. Just leave it right there for now. Not that big a deal. Let's go ahead and add our getting started and watch button, and we'll call this a day. So we've got a regular button for getting started, and then we've got our play button here for watch. And there's some margin between that, but it's still sort of within this same div. So we'll say div class margin top 8. And we'll get a button. Our link button, or just a regular button. Okay, and then a play button. look at our style guide. Play. Here we'll do button, and we want the background color be blue, text color be white, and we want to say getting started. Then play. We'll say watch. How that turns out. Okay, so we want to flex, and we want to do space X4. Eight. That's good. Let's move this down 16. Move this down 8. We bolded hyper, so let's do that. Cool. So that's a good start. It seems awfully long away, but that's a good start. Starting home page. All right, well, with this, we got started on our home page and got our nav put together, finished our style guide. Gonna work on the rest of the home page. We got to do all this stuff pretty much the same as before. Um, these images are going to be fun to put together. Don't know if you guys want to pay attention to that, but definitely when we get down here, I'll stream this because I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Um, but yeah, that's it for today. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.